My name is Rob, and the project was New York, LA.
What inspired you to do the project?
I went through a similar thing where I wasn't sure which way to go, and then when I ended up in Los Angeles after being in New York for some time, I started visualizing like an alternate universe where what if I would have stayed in New York, and that was really where it started.
Do you feel like going to LA was the right choice, or do you always question yourself to this day? Because I think a lot of people do. Because I think we've all been in the same circumstance.
It just feels like they exist on two different timelines, and even now, you're still always going, where should I be? Should I be in New York? Should I be in LA at this moment? Like, it never goes away.
All right. Can it be viewed anywhere besides here? Any other film festivals on the horizon? Anything online? Any other outlets?
The next one is the Golden Door Film Festival in Jersey City, and then there's a bunch coming up after that, but not for, I think, another month or two.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Hand of applause for New York, LA. Your name and your project.
Yeah, my name is Jeremy Stebbins. The project is High Ground.
So tell us what inspired you.
I remember, oddly enough, in like American literature, like in high school, we went over like trends in the 1920s, and there was this whole thing about flagpole sitting, and somehow like the image came back to me at some point, and just the idea of seeing kind of two people stuck in a really absurd position and then looking into the history of like, I think in its height, it like literally drew crowds of over 10,000 people would come see people just sitting on poles. And so the whole thing was just such an absurd setup. So that's kind of the impetus for the project.
Well, due to the observed setups, did you experience any obstacles or any unexpected hurdles along the way?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually originally designed to be kind of a university thesis project, and then we ran into a lot of issues convincing kind of the conservative university that we knew what we were doing, that we could properly build things, that we could find a beach location, a lot of kind of practical things that kind of derailed the project a little bit. So we were actually delayed on production for maybe 7 months kind of post-graduating, and then it's been kind of a 3-year process putting it together after that.
Are you anywhere else right now? Any other festivals, or can you be streamed online?
Not online yet, but we're going to be at Coney Island Film Festival next month.
All right, hand of applause for High Ground. Welcome, Linda. Tell us about Mirror Image.
Hi, Mirror Image is a film that was shot in LA at LA City Hall one day and one day in Pasadena at a park. And I want to give a shout out to my editor and one of the other producers, Max Vout, and also B. Pace, my still photographer that came in from LA, and my husband, Paul Berman. What was so great is I really wanted to do something about twins, and I wanted to do something about freedom and democracy, that it's not a Republican thing, it's not an independent thing, it's not a Democratic thing, but it's something we all could lose, and what we're willing to sacrifice for. And it was honoring the veterans, the first responders, and everyone who votes. And the duality was represented in the twins. So one's scared, one wants to serve. And I think people feel, what can they do, what they can't do.
Do you have any personal directorial influencers?
Steve Soderbergh, let's see, Martin Scorsese, and I have to say Catherine Bigelow, because she's the first woman who won an Academy Award, and it is great to have women represented here.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Big hand of applause for Mirror Image. Your film?
My name is Brandon McCardle. A branch of Gross Rationalities is my film.
What was your inspiration?
There's so much. It was directly on the day I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about kind of the men that had been rebuked recently over the last year and a half or so, or 2 years, with regard to sexual harassment, and we were just talking about these ideas, and I think for me, we see so much in the news media and social media, and I kind of wanted to be in the room with some of these men and women that were deliberating with attorneys or whatever, and kind of hear the conversation that takes place that we don't see. And I wanted to present a different argument, a more encompassing argument than just X did this to Y and this is the fallout of whatever that is. I wanted to see the kind of whatever the humanity was in it a little more than that. So that was kind of the inspiration for it. Yeah.
Did you experience any obstacles or any hurdles along the way?
Yeah.
It was very, very dialogue driven, so I just want a hand of applause for the cast. That was a lot of dialogue. It was very well done and it was delivered incredibly.
Yeah, not to take too much time, we had, so I wrote this original script of 16 pages. What's on the screen now is 9.5 pages. We had some issues on the first day of shooting that were kind of circumstantial, and in as least of a arrogant way as I can, I had to rewrite the script in about 55 minutes. So the lead actor, Andrew Ditz, who played Andrew McCall, memorized that opening monologue that you saw in about 45 minutes, which was unbelievable.
Is Andrew here tonight?
He's not here tonight. He's doing a play in Rhode Island, or Maine. Yeah, we had broken it up into parts, and I was going to shoot it in different ways, and after about 35 minutes, he's like, I got it. And I was like, there's no way you just memorized that entire monologue in 35 minutes. And he did it. Took 11 takes, and he got it.
Well, congratulations on a great cast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Marco, tell us about Broken Symphony.
I'm Marco, did Broken Symphony. Broken Symphony was, the characters were sort of the inspiration. I went to see Roy Hargrove with my dad, who was a jazz musician, who was played by Jamon Cole, who's up there in the back. And he's sort of this real cool jazz musician who came out wearing Ray-Bans and Air Jordans. So that character sort of derives from that. And the character of Claire was inspired by a musician that was sort of taking off while I wrote it, who I don't know, but I know through someone that I know who's like went through depression. So that was sort of built in there, not depression. I don't know what that's like, but and then the rest was just, we had a house to film at, which was the producer's parents' house. The producers there as well, Juliana and Alex. So it was just building those characters into the script. So yeah.
Do you have any influencers?
Yeah, sure. Wes Anderson, Tarantino on this one, but I also love Martin McDonagh. He's one of my favorites. I don't know if that was in this one as much, but other stuff, sure.
All right, big round of applause for Broken Symphony. I'd like to take the time now to open the floor. Does anyone out there have any Q&As for anyone up front? All right, coming up. Can you hear him?
Craziest thing that happened while making the film.
Anyone else want to start? Or? Okay. Maybe the jet ski. I might have broken a dock, I think. But yeah, I don't know. That might be a better question for the producers. But yeah.
That was kind of crazy with the script change, but the second day shooting was supposed to be like 9 hours or something, I think we had planned, and it ended up being like an 18-hour day because of the changes. We shot in a hotel and in Lower East Side or something, and the manager of the hotel saw us and wanted to be in the movie. I guess that's about the craziest, other than normal stuff.
Hi, I did a movie about a test and a field test, a fictional test, and I had these props built that I wasn't even sure how realistic they looked, but my prop guy really assured me how great they were. And so when I was done with the props, I took them down to recycling and took out the plastic explosive looking thing in the computers. But it had this pipe bomb that was really put together really tightly. And so I just took it down to recycling, and the guy points to my trunk and says, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a movie prop." And I go home and we're finishing editing, and all of a sudden a drone comes to my front window, and 3 uniformed police people and Homeland Security and the arson squad, and they knocked in, and I opened the door and I said yes, and they said, can we come in? And they had tracked my license plate over to my house, and they all came in, and I explained, no, I was just editing, I took it to recycling. I explained to the guy I was a movie prop, I don't know, maybe he didn't understand me. And they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have to go with us." And I said, "What?" And they said, no, you have to go with us. And I said, "Well, I can't, I have things to do, I'm finishing editing." They looked at, I said, "Look, I'll show you, it's right there." And he took pictures, and he sees the guy building the bomb. He goes, "Where is that done?" And I said, "In City Hall at the loading dock." And he said, "Well, you still have to come with us." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, we brought down a 50-foot RV, and we're gonna blow this up to see what it looks like." And I said, "Oh." I said, "I'm really claustrophobic, I don't want to get in the back of a police car." And he said, I said, "Can I drive my own car?" And he said, "No, it's an SUV, there's no cage." So I said, "Okay." And then I said, "Can I take my associate?" And he says, "Who's that?" And I said, "Max!" And Max comes out of the kitchen, completely hiding from the police. We go down there, they look at everything, and my guy was so realistic, he had a mercury switch, but there was no explosives in there whatsoever. And it's just good to know they were doing the right thing, and they drove me home, and I gave them a special thanks.
I think for us, crazy experience I had making it was actually securing the location for the shoot. Because for a while, we had been working with the Parks Department to try and secure shooting actually on a portion of Coney Island, and then that fell through spectacularly and quickly without much warning. So we actually found this private beach that we wanted to shoot at, but in order to secure it, I had to have these closed-door meetings with this guy who I couldn't tell if he was exactly some kind of real estate mogul or a hedge fund manager or some very ambiguous corporate intimidating title. And so we had these, closed-door meetings with him, his lawyer, and myself going over location agreements. And it was just very, very odd. And then part of the location agreement was we actually can't disclose where we shot it. We can't disclose the name of anyone from that company or anything like that. So that was, being 21, 22, going into those meetings by myself was definitely an interesting experience.
I was fairly fortunate because anytime anything went wrong in a scene, my actors, who are mostly my friends, are brilliant geniuses, comedians, and they can make anything play. So I was really lucky. I mean, they're the best there is, and I'm very fortunate to know all of them. So that's why, anytime anything that really wasn't great, they would make it play. But in terms of anything that went wrong, my co-producer in Los Angeles dropped out the day before, so we lost all of our locations, so we had to get it the night before. And then after the shoot, when I got my car back from him, which he was borrowing, I drove it across the country and it broke down in Iowa. And then when I brought it to the mechanic, he said he had no experience with this kind of car, but it's a Honda Civic, so it seems like it's a basic car. And then the rest of the way, I kept having to pull over because it was overheating and I was afraid I'd get hit by a truck. But that, it's the same old story.
Is there any other questions? Anyone? All right, coming up.
Yeah. How did you go about financing the projects and later on promoting them?
I worked a year doing odd jobs, didn't get to do anything creative, worked doing restaurants, proctoring, substitute teaching, wanted to blow my brains out.
This was my friends and family cash-in. So you kind of get one of those, and then you kind of move on. So this was that.
I'm also a writer, so I did some rewrites and wrote a kid's book and then decided to shoot, and a lot of people came through with a lot of great favors, and I decided I had to do it in 2 days because insurance and everything else, that's all the time we had. So I think the biggest thing is trying to have as much done as quickly as possible.
I self-financed it. I worked as an independent contractor in a different career for nearly a decade and still do sometimes. But as far as promoting it, for short films, film festivals are some of the best ways to get short films out as well. Vimeo and staff picks and YouTube and social media following, that stuff. But yeah, definitely Vimeo and pushing it up there and other platforms like that. So sure.
I forgot that second part of the question. Yeah, it was a proof of concept, this originally was, and a friend of mine said to start entering festivals, so this is my second festival, and right before, for promotion, what I found really helpful was I did an IMDb page and put a trailer up and stills, and we got offered a distribution deal off that alone. So I think IMDb, if you get your trailer up, get your stills up, get your poster up, people actually start looking through that. And I'll be in Oaxaca, Lisbon, we're in Florence in South Carolina, and film Four Corners in New Mexico, and 43 others that we're waiting to hear from.
In terms of financing, we used Seed and Spark, which is a website. Had a lot of generous donations from friends, family, people we know. In terms of promotion, we cut a few trailers that we put on YouTube, Instagram, social media, and I think one of our actors, Reggie up there, who played Gabe, is probably the biggest promotion that we have. He posts about it all the time on social media. So yeah, that's it.
Any other questions?
Hey, another question for everybody up there. So often you guys, scouring in any means to put your cast together. Based on any of the actors that you met and that you brought into your productions, did you adjust your script based on, wow, we want to expand this actor's role in the film because we just love this actor's energy and what he brings to the role? So yeah, Marco, you go.
Short answer is kind of no. The longer answer would be in post, recutting it based on not necessarily performance, but rewriting after we had already recorded. We didn't do any reshoots, but based on performance and things that I had written that we then realized were pretty bad writing. So just figuring that out. The performances were all great. I can't complain about those at all. And but we didn't expand our. You know what I'm going for.
For this film, no. It was the script was, it had to be kind of pitch perfect in the way that it was to make you not even me not immediately hate one person or another. One person. But different films that happens, but on this one, no.
On this one, my original idea was with the twins, and I found the twins. I actually discovered them. I go to sometimes acting workshops and sit in the back and watch, and there were twins there that day, and only one got up, and then I saw that she sat down next to someone who looked just like her. So I approached them and told them I wanted to do something with twins. We had general casting for the Marlon Sanders, the gentleman who plays Special Agent Anderson, but Colonel Costa is played by a 20-year veteran, Colonel Costanza, Lisa Costanza, and I knew her, and she was just going to have a small part walking through, And she said to me, Linda, really? You're only just giving me a walk-on? And I said, well, maybe you'll blow up at the end. She goes, really, Linda? And so, because we were developing something else, I said, yeah, maybe Marlon can have a partner. And as we started doing rehearsals, she was so strong and so good. I started bringing in more and more of her. And kind of geared about 2 weeks before we shot to make her Marlon's boss.
On High Ground, I was fortunate that my two kind of principals, Cameron Bass and Jason Catron, who played Stephen and Jim respectively, both had a really good rapport with each other, kind of off camera, to the point where during rehearsals or in between they'd go get drinks and they'd kind of talk about it. So there weren't many adjustments to the actual script, but they did bring a lot to kind of the subtext and kind of the beats between it, or kind of the tonality of how can we interpret what is written. And then there were always, I think the kind of best example was they were always coming up to me and asking, like, well, how did they go to the bathroom? Like, how'd they go to the bathroom? How'd they go to the bathroom? And so it's subtle, but we definitely included kind of a bucket plop there towards the end of the movie, which kind of hopefully satisfied their questions. But I think that was kind of, I think especially Jason, who played kind of our champion pole sitter, was really focused in on kind of fleshing out that character and wanting to kind of bring more nuance into especially kind of his more monologue or single-focused moments.
Yes, a lot of these parts were absolutely, if not all of them, were written for people I know. I mean, I knew generally what the project was, and then it's like, how do they fit in? Because they're so funny, and they're my greatest resource. So, you know, every project, I'm always working with the same people because they're so great. Some people couldn't fit in this one. Every project, maybe like half or 3/4 of them fit in, you know, but, you know, there's always going to be something for Dave, who was sitting next to me in the diner because he's the funniest person that ever lived. You know, Jessica was in the diner. She's also here, always up for everything. Helen, the girl in the first scene, had to do that scene in like 40 minutes because we spent the entire day doing the psychic thing. So they're just great. So I knew with them I'd be lucky. The only person that was cast was the Australian actress because I wanted someone who was Australian. I didn't know anyone.
Are there any more questions? Anyone? Anyone? All right, well, a branch of Gross Rationalities. New York, LA, High Ground, Mirror Image, and Broken Symphony. Again, my name is Troy Robert, and on behalf of the Big Apple Film Festival, thank you so much, and have a great night.